Welcome to Real Smart, the real estate podcast you've been waiting for. I'm Spencer Kallick, a real estate and land use attorney at Alan Matkins. On this show, I sit down with some of the most dynamic and accomplished voices in real estate to explore trends shaping the industry and uncover what truly sets great leaders apart. This is a special one, ladies and gentlemen, an Alan Matkins duo on Real Smart. Today, we are joined by Alan Hearty, first chill trial lawyer and leader of the Century City Litigation Department at Alan Matkins. He represents Fortune 500 companies, global real estate platforms, sport franchisees, high-profile business leaders in complex, high-stakes commercial disputes where business continuity, reputation, and financial exposure are all on the line. He is a lawyer many clients across Los Angeles call, in fact, across the country call, when the outcome is critical. Alan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Spencer.
I feel a little underdressed today, but I realize I'm now interviewing a litigator, so you had to come, ready with the power suit, ready to rock and roll.
I have to at least dress the part.
Exactly. Very Harvey Specter of you. You're rocking and rolling. Really appreciate you hopping on. This is special for me because not only are we colleagues, but also friends. But I think you've got something that's very unique amongst litigators, and I want to kind of delve into that. But before I get too far down the road, tell us about your career. What's your story? I know it obviously, but I'm curious for folks to hear because it is a little unique. How did you get to where you're sitting here today?
Well, before I begin, I want to thank you so much for having me on today's podcast. I'm a big fan, and I was just thinking, I'm a little concerned, given how good you are at this, that Hollywood could come calling and we could lose you to bigger things.
Here we go.
But for now, I truly appreciate it.
I knew I was going to take a little ribbing today. It's okay. Go ahead.
But I do appreciate you
of course.
having me on the podcast. It is an honor. So my start began many, many miles from here in a little country called Ireland. And as you can tell from my accent, I've been here long enough to sound Canadian. So my legal career began around the age of 4.
I didn't even go to law school at 4 years old.
Well, according to my mom, I had a propensity to argue from a very young age.
I'm very shocked to hear that.
With everybody that I came into contact with. So I think it got to the point at one stage where my mom said, you should really make a career out of this.
It's a wise woman.
And so best career advice I've ever received.
Yeah.
So after that, I attended University College Dublin a few years later, not at the age of 4. And I studied business and law, graduated with a double major, and I had a decision, was I going to become a CPA or become an attorney? Obviously, I chose the correct road, I believe. And so in Ireland, you have a different system where if you want to become a trial attorney, you have to do additional schooling and serve an apprenticeship as a barrister. Before that happened...
The one where you put the wigs on, is that right?
Yes, unfortunately, I don't get the opportunity.
I was going to say, for us bald guys, too bad. Oh, well.
But so, of course, Cupid came along and scuppered those plans. I met my now wife many, many years ago.
Which was the best thing you ever did in your life. Let's be clear about that.
Of course. Yeah, she might be listening
She's
in.
absolutely listening to this, and she'll agree. Go ahead.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
But I ended up moving to the States. We lived in New York. I took the New York bar exam. And then my wife, again, convinced me to move to California. And we ended up moving out here well over 20 years ago. Took the California bar exam. And then I began my legal practice. So started out at another firm, which merged with a large national firm, and kind of cut my teeth there as a baby attorney for several years. And then one of the partners I was working with, we had been doing a lot of work in real estate litigation and, cases that touched upon real estate in some respect. So we thought it would be a good idea for us to kind of hitch our wagon to a firm that specializes in real estate and that would serve as, give us a really good platform for the services that we provided. And that led to a lunch with Tony Natsis, who's down the hallway here. And within 10 seconds of having lunch with Tony, he had convinced us that we would be making the biggest mistake of our lives if we didn't join Alan Matkins. So that occurred.
And you wouldn't want to disagree with Tony, so you had to say, of course, yeah,
absolutely not. Yeah. But you know what? He was right. And he usually is, of course. But that was almost 16 years ago.
Wow.
So it's kind of hard to believe that, I've been here for so long, but it was the best decision career-wise I've ever made. I can't imagine myself working at any other law firm. And I'm not just saying that because we're sitting here today. It truly is a great firm.
And it all started back at Kenny Louth.
There you go. That's right. That's where I'm from.
I've learned from my Irish friend. You got to shout out the county you're from in Ireland if people want to locate where you're from.
Yeah, you didn't pronounce it right, but I'm not going to make fun of you.
It's okay. Go ahead.
But and again, with Alan Matkins, as you know, we're synonymous with real estate. We've been ranked, I think, the top real estate firm in California for over a quarter century. But what some folks may not know is that we are one of the preeminent trial firms in the state, if not the country. And we're really proud of that fact.
Which, by the way, just pause for a second, because most people think of Alan Matkins as a real estate firm, buying, selling, leasing, financing, JV, tax, environmental. Unfortunately, I don't think enough people realize that we have a lot of amazing litigators, and you lead that team. So I think it's important to pause for a minute. I'm obviously biased, but we have phenomenal litigators that I don't think get enough credit in the firm.
And I couldn't agree more, especially when you mentioned the team, because it is a team effort, obviously. But I think we've well over 100 attorneys who are dedicated specifically to real estate. There's a lot of firms out there that say we're trial focused, but Alan Matkins tries cases. And I think when we hire folks as litigators, our expectation is that they will be trial attorneys. And I think most, if not all, of our litigators here have tried a case at one point. And I was actually looking at some statistics yesterday, and the number of trials that we had, even within the last 24 months, and the number of victories is, quite amazing. I was very, delighted to see that.
Which is notable because, look, I'm a litigator. I'm not a litigator. I play one on TV, but I know enough to be dangerous about it. And I know that when they get a letter, or when opposing counsel gets a letter from someone who doesn't litigate, doesn't actually go to court, doesn't go to trial, is not willing to take it all the way, they have one posture. But when they see the number of cases that you're actively litigating, they see that you've taken these to juries, you've taken them to affirmative decisions, that changes the mindset, that changes the advice that they're giving their client, and is a huge value add for our clients. So, Alan, one of the things you shared about was your early childhood, 4 years old, realizing you'd make a good attorney. Talk to me about, in your legal career, what has been a defining moment where you realize, man, I really know what I'm doing, I've got this figured out, and this is truly not just a job for me, but a passion. It's part of who I am, it's part of my identity, and what makes you so successful?
So, great question. And there is actually a specific moment or time that I that resonates with me that I'd like to share. It actually brings me back to my very first trial. I was at my prior firm, and I was working with a very senior trial attorney, a phenomenal attorney who unfortunately passed away a few years ago. But one of the lessons that he instilled in me was to take ownership of cases. He always made the point that even if you're a junior attorney, right, a junior member of the team, you should operate on the assumption that the partner might get hit by a bus and you're the one trying the case.
God
so
forbid.
Own that case. So I always took that to heart. And then my very first trial was a case that involved and it wasn't something that we typically handled at our firm. It was actually a personal injury trial. And it involved the son of one of our clients. So we kind of did it as a favor, but we're trial attorneys, so we'll handle anything.
You can win anything, right?
We'll handle anything.
Exactly.
And I was learning from the best at the time. So the partner brought me onto the case and said, okay, you're going to come watch me in action. And you'll hold my briefcase, and maybe I'll let you answer, question a couple of witnesses. But my whole point in being there was to learn from him. First day of trial, we impaneled a jury, judge is there, everyone's lined up, ready to go. Partner stands up at the podium, ready to say his thing, and he collapses onto the floor.
Oh my gosh.
So as you can imagine, the jury is aghast. The judge can't believe what's happening.
That's crazy.
I didn't know what to do. Paramedics come in, wheel him out. Good news is he made a full recovery. He
Okay,
was
good.
okay. So
And there you are standing there saying, all right, let's go.
here I am, and the judge says to me, he said, Mr. Hearty, I've got two options here. I can declare a mistrial, or your name's on the pleading, so we can move forward.
Wow.
So kind of looked at the client, made a few phone calls back to the office, and I think the client signed a few waivers, but they let me proceed with the trial. So ended up trying my first case for, I think, 3 to 4 weeks to a jury. Ended up thankfully getting a great result for the client. We won the case, got a punitive damages award. And so at the end of the process, definitely for me, it was that moment where I'm like, this is what I want to do. Certainly a trial by fire. And yeah, that kind of set the stage for the rest of my career.
That's a good reminder to the younger attorneys for sure. I feel like a lot of litigation people associate with what they see on TV. You know, whether it's Judge Judy or the Lincoln Lawyer or Law and Order, they assume that's what it looks like. But when a company or an individual is facing high stakes litigation, there's a whole lot that happens before you ever step foot in a courtroom. Talk to me about what it looks like behind the scenes. What are the things that folks are not seeing? And I realize that's a broad question, but what are you counseling clients? What are you looking at with clients when they're thinking through what that strategy might look like?
You definitely can get a misperception of what actually attorneys do and litigators do.
Are you telling me that TV's not accurate? I don't believe that.
I mean, as much as I used to like LA Law and Suits and all of these other shows, I mean, the reality is that while we do argue motions to judges and we do certainly try cases, I mean, the vast majority of our time is spent behind the scenes, right? We are doing everything else that leads up to the moment where you're actually spending a little bit of time in the courtroom, you know, with the trier of fact. So, you know, for example, in a high stakes, maybe bet the company litigation matter, we have a lot of those at the firm. There's a lot going on behind the scenes. You know, from my perspective, I'm doing, you know, various things from figuring out from a business perspective, you know, how is this case impacting the client's position in the marketplace, right? What the decisions that we make, how is that going to impact them going forward? And we take that into consideration with our legal analysis. Then oftentimes there's a flow of information, right? The press might be involved. You have to make sure that messaging is good. You may have to respond.
I did see you on the
issues.
front page LA Times not too long ago.
Our firm has been on there quite a few times.
No, I meant your name. Let's not be so bashful. You got it. All right, keep going.
But yeah, so there's definitely the PR aspect to it, the messaging aspect to it. And then there's also the legal strategy part, right? Where we're trying to figure out how to position the case through discovery and through depositions and whatever else we lawyers do to make sure that if it does go to trial or if we have an important motion that we're very much prepared for that. So these are definitely some of the factors. I think another issue when you're dealing with, especially with corporate clients, is, you know, the folks I'm dealing with, you know, leadership, they have, you know, constituents too, right? They've got the board that they might have to answer to. They've got investors who are asking questions. You know, they've got other folks on their team who might be anxious about it. So for me, I think it's really important to, you know, be there for them. You know, I'm able to help them craft their message, you know, internally as well, and just make sure that they know that, you know, we're taking care of them, which hopefully we are. So
You are. I mean, you're dealing with high pressure situations all the time, and you know, not just as your partner, but as your friend. I see this stuff, and I don't know how you deal with it every day. It's so interesting to me because I get to see a lot of the letters you write. I won't tell anybody if, you know, because nobody's listening to this perhaps, but you're like the nicest guy that I know. And I read these letters you write and I'm like, oh my God, who is this person? Like the fangs come out in the best possible way on behalf of our clients, but you write a mean letter. So in these high pressure situations, what do you rely on internally? How do you organize yourself internally to go into these battles?
For me personally, and you're right, obviously, we zealously advocate for our clients, and hopefully whoever receives my letters doesn't take it too personally, but we have to do what we have to do. But I would say for me personally, I think it's really important, especially when the stakes are high, and certainly by virtue of what we do, there's a lot of pressure involved. I think it's really important to focus on perspective and especially on preparation. And so what I try to do first is, as the stakes get higher, I try to set the intention to be more calm, right? Be more reasoned, because I can function at a higher level when I'm not stressed out as well. I think we all can. In terms of preparation, I think preparation is key to anything in life. I'm actually training for the I'm actually training for the OC marathon right now because I'm too busy to run LA next month. But again, it's one of these things where I enjoy preparing for the race as much as I do, the actual race itself. And people are like, how do you run 26 miles? It sounds impossible.
I don't even want to run on the block, but God bless you. Okay.
Yeah, but anyone can do it. It's just a matter of taking the time to prepare for it. And I really enjoy that aspect of training as much as the race itself, frankly. And it's a little bit like trial work, right? You want to make sure that you are fully prepared. You can't control what the judges do. You can't control what the jury does. You can't control what opposing counsel does. But you can certainly control what you do and how you react to certain situations. And for me, it's, just really maintaining that, as calm a presence as I possibly can.
Again, biased as your friend, as your partner, but you win a lot. And you're very effective in very tense, high-stakes situations. I'm curious, to the extent that you can talk about it, any big recent wins that you're particularly proud of or really demonstrate both your calm and your ability to get things done on a team basis?
Well, I think I have the good fortune, first of all, of working at a firm with an incredibly talented bunch of people, and I'm not just saying that. So I think any success that I've had is a testament to the team, right? The other partners who work with me, associates, paralegals,
You're a selfless
support
guy.
staff.
I appreciate that.
I mean, it's true. I think success really is in large part due to everybody working together as a team. And we've had a chance to work in some fun cases, as you know, over the years. I've worked on some large kind of bet the company cases for very large corporations. I've had the opportunity to work on some fun cases for sports franchises. By virtue of living in LA, there's obviously a lot of celebrity clients, but for me, I also enjoy supporting and giving back and where I can help organizations like nonprofits. We just had a huge lawsuit involving a homelessness nonprofit that I've been involved with for many years. I think we got an incredible result for them. It was a bet the company litigation. And, I think for me, helping other people and helping other organizations, that means a lot at the end of the day. And I'd say that's probably one of the bigger ones. We're also working, for a large foundation right now that, again, it's kind of good to give back as well. And those are, I think, the victories that stand out most.
I love that. So you lead the litigation department here in Century City, although I know you're working with litigators all across the state. And you have the opportunity to mentor a lot of young attorneys. Talk to me about what that looks like in the litigation space. Because it's not just about, do you know how to take a deposition? Mm-hmm. There's more to it. Yeah. So tell me a bit about what that looks like for you.
Sure. So, I mean, at our firm, for example, we have a very structured program in place to train our junior litigators. So we bring them away for training on all aspects of trial work. And we also try to encourage our younger folks to participate in, hearings and trials from an early age. And I think the fastest way for someone to develop is to actually do the work, right? And again, I'm the case in point where I had my first trial by myself. But again, I learned...
Don't drop dead on any of our associates, please. Or not dead, just, don't pass that.
I'll try not to.
Okay.
Obviously you learn exponentially in a situation like that. I think you kind of sink or swim. But for me, I think also it's important to informally mentor our associates and to be there for them when they have questions and concerns. One of the things I do try to impart to our folks here is something that I mentioned previously, which is ownership. I think even if you're a junior attorney on a case, whether it's a litigation matter or a transactional matter, or maybe it's a different industry, maybe you're in real estate or you're in some other type of business, but the sooner that you kind of take ownership of what you're doing and put yourself in the position of the person you're reporting to, I think the faster you will develop yourself. So I think that's a critical component. For the litigation realm, I think writing is an essential part of what we do. Again, that's how we communicate for the most part, unless we're arguing to a court or having other interactions. So for me, I always try to train and focus my associates on how to become better writers. I think that's critical. And then one of the other points that I try to impart is the importance of integrity in the profession, in any profession. Judges talk, opposing counsel talk, clients talk, and I think it's really important for young associates to develop integrity. I think it compounds over time, and it's a good thing for their career, and it's obviously a good thing for their life.
I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about AI for a second. And I realize that I'm curious what you're going to say about this, but everyone says AI is revolutionizing everything, the practice of law, but a big focus on litigation. Is AI going to take over Alan Hearty? Are we going to be having AI bots doing your job all day long? Or what role does AI have to play, or maybe not play, in the litigation practice?
Yeah, I think our jobs are set for at least another 3 months.
Okay, fair enough. Set your clock. Yeah.
That's a great question, right? The impact of AI on every profession, it seems to be happening at breakneck speed. I feel like we as litigators still have something to give, given the nature of what we do in counseling people directly. Again, a large part of my job is spent counseling people, advising my clients not to get into litigation. So
you settle things way too easily, by the way, but
okay. But it's hard to tell what the future has in store. Again, I think until such time as the robots are walking into court and arguing on our behalf, I feel like there's a little bit of time left, but certainly the industry is changing, and hopefully in a good way.
I'm curious though about how you devote your time. You mentioned that you spend a lot of time counseling your clients not to get into litigation. And I've been on the calls with you where, CEO, general counsel, owner of the company is saying, we got to sue them, we got to, rush to court, file the lawsuit, let's go. And oftentimes you're saying, whoa, hold on a second. Mm-hmm. Why are you saying, whoa? Isn't it, everyone thinks of litigators as, they're always ready to run the court and, spend all of your money and, get paid. And that's all it's about. But you spend a lot of your time saying, no, don't do that. I'm curious, why is that? And what does that look like?
That's a good point. And I actually pride myself on being a counselor as well as a trial attorney. I think any attorney who goes straight to uber aggressive doesn't necessarily do their clients justice. And I think one of the greatest lessons that I could impart to folks in business or whoever is really litigation should be viewed from a business perspective, not just a legal context or contest. And by that I mean, oftentimes if a dispute arises or a lawsuit is filed, clients will jump to, hey, first question is, can we win? And for me, I think a better first question is, what should we do here? Okay, what is the best thing to do for the business under the circumstances?
Because you might win, but you might lose years and years and spend millions of dollars and end up losing.
Exactly, right? The attorneys win great because they're litigating the case for you. But the problem is, even if you get that victory, but your business is completely destroyed, right? Your customers have run away or your business partners have left you. Is that necessarily the best result for the business as a whole? I don't think so. So, and again, I'm not saying that litigation is something that should be avoided. On the contrary, I think the exact opposite most of the time.
I bet you do.
But the point is, you should at least consider the options, right? Walk them through with your clients. And some of the best folks I've seen in business are the leaders who, when they're faced with that type of situation, they'll pause, they'll take the time to address how the litigation impacts their business, and then oftentimes they'll align the legal strategy with their business goals. And it's hard to do because you're so caught up in the emotion of it. But if you can do that as a business leader, I think you're doing a huge service to yourself and to your client or to your company.
It's something that I've heard you say many times, something that I say often, which is the only person who's going to benefit from this is me. And that's not the way I like to practice. I'm not interested in making money where you lose. And so you talked about the emotion though, and these disputes, when you're talking about millions and millions, if not billions of dollars in deals that we're dealing on, are very emotional. And people feel slighted and they feel wronged and they got in situations that they never could have imagined would have occurred. How do you strip the emotion out of it, or how do you deal with the emotion, especially in a litigation context?
I think it's important to understand who your client is first, how your client thinks, and then you can tailor your strategy according to the situation, right? Some clients are less emotional than others, so you can have a very practical, reasoned conversation. Other clients can be extremely emotional. So my goal as the counselor, like we said previously, is to really bring calm to that situation. Okay, talk in facts, right? Talk in structure as to what the issues are and how they can be addressed. Again, I can only do so much. Sometimes my clients feel the way that they feel, and we go for it, right? We litigate the heck out of the case. It just means the risk factor goes up, right? Because litigation is uncertain. You can never give full guarantees in litigation, and some clients are less risk adverse, and and again, sometimes it's out of their control too, where they simply just have to defend themselves, which is fine. So
what I see often is when people are highly emotional, and by the way, it's okay to be emotional. These things are emotional. When people are highly emotional in a litigation context, they're only looking at the facts that are beneficial to themselves. They're not looking at that text message maybe that they really wish they didn't send, or that email that they would love to take back at this point. And so what I've seen you play a good role in your counselor position and being calm is giving the countervailing arguments, giving the countervailing facts that could swing a judge, could swing a jury, and could end up going from a slam dunk win to you might have some liability here. And I think that's a real strong suit of yours that I've seen many times you exhibit.
So what you're telling me is that I'm too good at turning away business.
Oftentimes. That, and I'm very, very careful whenever I text anybody or email anybody. The old adage, like, would you show this to your grandmother or to your rabbi?
Yes.
I try to be very circumspect about what I put in writing, because God forbid I got to turn to you one day and you say, Spencer, I really wish you didn't send that. I don't want to be in that position. So.
Yeah, and that's another good point in terms of, lessons for non-litigators is you never know when an issue in a business situation can turn into a dispute. So you should always be mindful, especially of your written communications. And I can't stress that enough, because to your point, it's usually that text that was sent in the heat of the moment, or something.
Early in the morning, late at night.
Yes, exactly. Yep. Or maybe with a glass of Irish whiskey.
There you go.
Whatever the circumstance, there's definitely issues like that can come back to haunt you. So especially in the business context, you should make sure that you're as mindful as you possibly can of your communications.
So I've never met anybody who goes into a business setting, whether it's buying a piece of real estate, entering into JV, what have you, with an eye towards the partnership breaking up or litigation occurring. And thankfully, most people haven't had the pleasure, displeasure, depending on where you come from, of being in litigation. But things do go south, things do go sideways. It's part of the reason why you have a job. What advice do you have for real estate professionals? That, like, the couple things that, gosh, I wish that everybody knew this. to avoid ending up on your desk or in your email inbox? And how do you be proactive in a business setting to avoid litigation down the road?
Yeah, I think,
I'm trying to put you out of a job, by the way, so help us out here.
yeah, you're trying to further educate people on how
It's
to-
never going to
how to
happen, let's
not
be
call
clear.
me
There will always
in the
be
future.
litigation in this world, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Curious what advice you have.
Well, I think you gave the great advice too as to how you should think about your communications, right? And understand that at some point in the future, no matter how rosy the relationship is now, that things could turn south. And I see that all the time. And then lo and behold, discovery begins and everybody's looking at everybody's text messages and emails and
Taking them out of
letters.
context and yeah.
So maybe your social media posts. So I think it's, again, for people in business, you should absolutely be mindful of that, issue potentially down the road. I'm not saying that you have to think about litigation, day in, day out, 24/7, but it's just something to be mindful of as you move forward. And I think those are kind of definitely important points. The other issue which we touched upon a little bit as well is if a business dispute does arise, to the extent that you can separate the dispute from the emotion that it engenders, the better for you. Obviously, get counsel involved as soon as possible to advise you on what you should be doing. But, try not to jump to the, hey, let's escalate this and kick their butts when that's not necessarily the best tactic for you. It might be, but it might not necessarily be.
We talked earlier about AI, but one of the things I've been seeing a lot recently is a lot of clients and real estate professionals are turning to AI to look at their lease or to look at their JV agreement, or to look at their PSA, and then taking really the summary, or let's be candid, the hallucination from that, and saying, oh, I have a really great position. When unfortunately, they actually didn't read page 73, line 45. But they think that they're going to win litigation, they're ready to go. And it's oftentimes where we have to pause, where you talked about, it's going to change business in many ways, but AI is not quite there yet. No, it doesn't replace actually reading the four corners of that document. And so I think it's a good reminder for our real estate professionals. And it's often why I say, hey, I hear what ChatGPT says for you, but let me get Alan on the phone. Let's kick this around and figure out if what you actually think or what AI thinks is really true, or here's where a trier of fact would come out on this issue.
Yeah, and I think as AI advances, the technology, I assume, will become more accurate. But right now, I've seen so many hallucinations when it comes to legal issues. For example, there's been attorneys sanctioned all across the country because they've had AI help them write their briefs, citing the cases that don't exist, right? So I think the issue with a lot of these AI programs is that they want to tell you the answer that you want to hear. So they'll come up with this case that's directly on point for the argument that you want to make. Unfortunately, that case was never decided and doesn't exist. And then other times as well, citing to specific code or statutes that don't exist.
Yep.
So again, it has some benefit, but it's would you rather have AI diagnose your medical issues versus going to see a doctor who's been doing it for many years and understands it? Not to say in the future that technology will get better, but if you don't, again, for right now, it's not advanced enough. And even when it does get to the point where it's more advanced, if you don't know how to interpret it properly, then you'll probably cause more issues for yourself. So I still think there's room for legal counsel on all of those types of issues.
So you're a hard-nosed litigator. You do this every single day. But I also know you well enough to know that you've got other interests. You have other things that are going on in your life. How do you keep sane in this crazy, intense, aggressive world of litigation? What keeps you grounded? What keeps you excited? What keeps you calm? What keeps you motivated to do this every day?
I mean, I could say that again, being such an accomplished golfer, that really
Boy.
helps me.
You can't be Irish and not talk about your golf. But I've been on the course with you. I know accomplished is not the word I would use. I have maybe a couple other adjectives, but go ahead. Tell me about your golf game.
Well, as you know, I'm not exactly the most accomplished golfer in the world, but I think that speaks volumes maybe for how good an attorney I am.
Oh, there you go.
I don't have enough
You're
time
saying
to
if you were
spend-
like a +2, you'd be not as good a litigator. I understand.
I'm just saying the higher the handicap, the better the attorney is my
Understood.
my
Understood.
belief. But
You and me both, my friend.
But yeah, I think it's really important for not just litigators or land use attorneys or attorneys in general, but anyone, right, to have interests aside from what they do for a living. Obviously, my family is very important to me. My kids' sports on the weekend. I can't think of anything better or any better way to spend my weekends. But you definitely need to take that time out for yourself and try and remove yourself from your work situation from time to time, because especially in a high pressure career, it can overwhelm you at times. So
And you have an amazing wife and amazing kids. Very lucky, and they do keep you grounded.
They do.
And your golf handicap also keeps you a little grounded at times.
when I hit it in the ground.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I want to track back for a second. It's been on my mind. Often people talk about trends. They talk about what are you seeing out there in the marketplace. But people don't really talk about litigation trends, at least not that I hear a whole lot about. Maybe I don't hang with enough litigators. What trends are you seeing right now in 2026 sitting here in the litigation world? We talked about AI, but are there other things that folks aren't thinking about, aren't talking about, that they should be aware of?
There's so much going on in the world of litigation right now. It's hard to
Give me one or two. What comes top of mind? What is like the kind of latest breaking?
Well, I do think to what we were discussing earlier, we're at this inflection point in some respects with respect to the use of AI technology. And I'm seeing a lot of issues there with copywriting issues are a big one.
What is the perfect Alan Hearty case? I realize we should pick up the phone and call you anytime litigation occurs, but we're talking about Alan Hearty, Alan Matkins Century City Litigation Department is going to hit this out of the park. What does that look like?
Well, for me, obviously a client who can pay the bills. No.
That's a given.
It all depends. I mean, I have, like I mentioned, I represent so many types of different businesses that for me, no 2 days are the same in the office. And I really enjoy that aspect of my practice. Again, I think to the nonprofit example I gave previously, I think for me personally, when I achieve an outcome that I know, doesn't just benefit me or the firm or the immediate client, but it has an impact on the community at whole, that resonates with me. That makes me feel better for waking up in the morning and putting in another hard day's toil. And again, working on some fun stuff that might be land use related, where I can pick your brain. That obviously is a benefit to me.
Feeling is mutual. Feeling is mutual.
But again, yeah, I just love what I do. I mean, that's what no 2 days are the same, like I said, and I just really enjoy my practice in general.
Which is a rarity, right? A lot of litigators and lawyers in particular, it's a job, it's not a profession, and they kind of bemoan it. But one of the things where I think you and I connect is we love what we do, right? People pay us to do this, fantastic. We're able to solve a lot of problems and get great results for our clients.
Yeah.
Alan, I just want to say thank you, not only for your friendship and your partnership, but also for hopping on the Real Smart podcast today. It's been a pleasure. It's been a lot of fun. And I hope everyone out there listening and watching enjoyed it as well. So thank you, and have a great day, everyone.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay.
The content of this podcast is for the general informational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. Listening to this podcast does not create an attorney-client relationship between you, the host, guest, or Alan Matkins. You should not act or rely on any information discussed without first consulting a qualified attorney regarding your specific situation. Any opinions expressed are those of the individual speaking and do not necessarily reflect the views of Alan Matkins or its clients.